Great. Hello to everyone who is joining this morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for making the time. You can see the participant number growing in the bottom corner here. Very excited to have you all. My name is Tom. I head up the marketing team at Knowde. And before we get started with today's event, I did want to share just a couple of housekeeping items. The main one being that there's a Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. You can ask questions at any time throughout the event using that Q&A button, and we will have time at the end of the presentation for us to run through the questions that you have. So make sure to send them in as they come up. We are very excited about all the interest we had in today's topic. We have two excellent guest speakers from Mitsubishi Chemical Group and Eastman. You'll hear more about that in a minute. But yeah, we have a lot of folks that were interested, and we're excited to talk about all of the new and exciting products that we have coming out on Knowde's end. For those of you who just joined, as I can see, we're continuing to get folks trickling in. A reminder that there's the Q&A button at the bottom. You can ask questions throughout the presentation, and then we will have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. It does look like we have a fair number of people signed in, so I think we're probably ready to kick things off. And to that end, I would like to hand things over to Knowde's CEO, Ali, to kick off the conversation.
Great. Thanks, Tom. Hi, everyone. My name's Ali. Thanks so much for attending. This is now our fourth Kinetic event, which is our quarterly showcase of what's new at Knowde. A bunch of people actually asked me after the last Kinetic event, how did we actually come up with the name Kinetic? What it means is applying energy to create forward motion. So it's very fitting for what we were trying to do here. It looks like we have an amazing turnout again. Thanks so much for joining us. There's more people coming in, but we got to get started. We're going to use the same format as last time. So I will set context with 3 slides. Then I'm going to introduce 2 really insightful guests for a short conversation. And then that will set the stage for the actual showcase of Knowde's latest features. Feel free to ask questions throughout, and then we will answer as many of them as we can, rapid fire, all the way at the end. Okay, next. For those that are not familiar with Knowde, we're building a software platform built for our industry. We built Knowde to help suppliers deliver the best online experience possible to their customers. Our objective is to make it easier than ever for your customers to be able to discover your products, engage with you online, and then be able to buy from you as well, which means that you generate more brand awareness, generate more leads, you have more conversations with customers, and you have a lower cost to serve and cost to acquire. Next. This underlines, what I just mentioned. Our software enables the entire buying journey from discovering products in your catalog all the way through to purchasing products from you, and then everything in between as well. That's typically done offline today. So we're basically giving you all the tools that you need in order to give customers an amazing experience, and then all the tools you need to be able to manage your online sales funnel. Next. There's lots and lots of customers that love the experience that we're enabling, and just as many suppliers. We're so incredibly thankful to have so many of you that are on this webinar as customers. Okay, let me introduce our 2 guests. Over the past few years, we've certainly witnessed a shift in what customers have come to expect from suppliers, particularly on the digital side. While this shift, from our perspective, got underway probably 5 or 6 years ago, the pandemic certainly accelerated it, and it also exposed many gaps in the industry, many gaps and opportunities and challenges and all that. From our perspective, throughout all the conversations that we're having in this space, it's really clear that we're taking digital much more seriously than we have in the past. It's no longer an optional thing or a nice to have. It's now become a requirement. And our two guests are here to help us, talk through what that means. First is Jordan from Eastman. Jordan leads global corporate brand at Eastman, which heavily touches customer digital experiences. The unique thing about Jordan is that she's relatively new to this industry, formally joining Eastman just a few months ago, but she's definitely not new to digital and creative and brand and strategy and marketing, having spent her entire career in those disciplines. So she brings an interesting sort of fresh outside-in perspective that I think is absolutely necessary. Also hugely delighted to have Roy with us. He leads business transformation globally at Mitsubishi Chemical. And as part of a very large charter, he's spending a lot of time thinking through customer experience, how customer expectations are changing, and the impact that digital is going to have on all of this. I'm terribly excited to have both of them here because, as you'll soon see, they have a strong point of view, strong opinions, which I think is definitely necessary when trying to create change, especially within large organizations. Okay, let's get right into this conversation. What we did is we stack ranked the questions from our community, or from you guys, and we're going to hit the topics that people care the most about. Okay, the topic that came up most often is, we hear often that customer expectations are changing in our industry. These words get thrown out a lot. But what people want to hear is, how, from your perspective, are they actually changing? What are you seeing? And Jordan,
you want to go first?
Yeah.
Gladly. So I think one of the biggest things that we've seen shift, and I think, as you said, Ali, the pandemic has really accelerated this, is the need to kind of move into digital and to experience digital as a consumer, even in a B2B space. So, you might not necessarily be looking through or scrolling through something on your phone on a daily basis, but how many times have you gotten an email, skimmed it quickly, and then moved on to the next thing? It's just the way people are consuming information has really shifted, and it's much more about kind of snackable bites. How can I, read quickly, skim through something quickly, get the information I'm looking for quickly? And I think it's really a shift in how people are expecting to experience things in the digital space. The user experience is much more focused in kind of where things are going in the consumer end of things. So consumer has now really impacted the way people are experiencing B2B. And so UX is becoming so critical in terms of being able to serve up the right information somebody's looking for, in terms of being able to meet the customer where they are in their journey for looking for information. It used to be a user journey was like point A to point B to point C. It was very linear, and now it's very kind of circular, or there's a million different ways that people might be looking for information. Somebody might come in from one channel and expect something that they might be looking for over here or over there. And so, we've really got to look through, how are people experiencing our brand? How are people experiencing and looking for information? And how can we get them to what they're looking for as fast as possible? You used to have maybe a minute to get somebody to what they were looking for. I think now you might have, I might say 20 seconds. And so you've really got to make sure you're at least capturing people's attention and then moving them through the information that they're looking for. So I think that's a big shift in, how people are experiencing brands in the digital space.
Cool.
What are your thoughts?
Now, I think I was going to build exactly upon the point Jordan mentioned kind of at the end. I think what we also see for our company, for Mitsubishi Chemical Group, is that the relevance of understanding and being at the right moment of the customer's buying decision journey is more critical than ever. So where we have a long track record and a strong track record of having strong engagements directly with customers who we've dealt with for many, many years, and that will always remain to be there. So it's not replacing per se kind of that engagement that we have with good and loyal customers. But it is exactly like Jordan mentioned, it is the expectation that customers have, potential customers, new customers, recurring customers, that we need to be where they are at the moment that they need information. And that's very different than from the past, where, you know, in the past, maybe an inside salesperson got a phone call or an email with a request of information. That need for information is now not specific to one brand anymore, right? So a customer, an engineer, a different persona has a certain information need at a point in their buying decision journey. And they need that information at present, at that moment, and not specific to visiting a manufacturer's website, giving a phone call to a specific inside sales team, and etc. So I think the big change that we also see is that we need to be where our customer is, where they are looking for information, and that's not necessarily, let's say, on our premises. That's not per se also on our branded touch points. So the relevance of understanding kind of that journey, and then being where kind of the relevant moments in time are in providing that information, I think that's the biggest shift that we have seen and probably will still see in the coming period.
Yep. I mean, we're seeing that in spades. You know, the journey is not linear. You have to meet customer expectations very quickly, and you have to meet them where they are. And I think we can all agree that, you know, that's shifted. I mean, you know, where they are now versus where they may have been 10 years ago is just dramatically different. So we've obviously seen suppliers make more investments in digital, and we've certainly seen it accelerate since the pandemic. I know it's still early days for most, but, you know, can you share what your company is doing, or maybe, you know, if that's too sensitive, maybe what you're seeing in the broader industry as to, like, you know, what the next couple steps are?
You want me to go first, Ian?
Go ahead.
So I think for us, you know, we're seeing, as we're trying to shift to meet customer needs or to create spaces where we can tell our story, tell our brand story in a different way, you know, we're seeing, you know, a lot more shift into what's happening in digital. Where can we meet our customers with those parts and pieces that they might be looking for? One of my favorite things about working in digital is you get a report card. Like, you can use your analytics and your metrics to get an instant read on, is what we're putting out there effective? And then you can adjust accordingly. So making sure that we've got a really clear view of what are we expecting people to do? If we wrote, you know, a thought leadership piece and we put it up, are we expecting people to read it? Are we expecting people to share it? Are we expecting people to click on it? If we put up a video, same deal. You know, how are we expecting people to interact? How are we expecting people to want to engage? And then looking at, you know, the metrics in the report card. Did we get what we needed out of it? And then using that to say, okay, well, if we didn't, what do we try next? If we did, let's do more of it. So I think kind of focusing in on where we can go in terms of leveraging the data that digital gives us. I mean, when I started many months ago in the industry, you know, I did a lot of work in TV, and TV, you didn't really ever get a real report card. You could never tell, like, was my commercial successful or not? And one of the reasons why I sort of glommed onto digital in the early days was because you can get that read and you can use your analytics to figure out, am I moving the needle for my brand? Am I moving the needle for my sales team? Am I moving the needle for, you know, everyone at the company? And so that's one of the biggest things that I think is interesting to engage with in digital, and kind of a new sort of way of looking at where can we go in the future.
Yeah. Now, maybe to build on that, Jordan, what you mentioned, I think what we see as well here is that, of course, compared to maybe some of the other industries, we still have quite some catching up to do in the chemical industry. which is not a negative thing. You know, it's a fantastic opportunity that is there. You know, for people working in our industry, there is fantastic opportunities to grab. But we can learn. We can learn from other industries. We can learn certainly from a B2C space there as well. So I think if I look at our company, the biggest investment probably is even in people. The investment that we are doing and will be doing in people, and that's you know, I need to use that phrase probably at least once a day, that digital does not equal technology, right? And that's still a big part of the assumption that people have. You know, when we say digital, then immediately we jump to a tool, a solution, a technology, and etc. So I think the biggest investment and focus for us will actually be to invest in our people, to upskill, to train, to educate, and to bring people along on, you know, how leveraging digital opens up a wealth of opportunities that that we have. Right now, we have many discussions, for example, on lead management. You know, we don't need a tool kind of to bring us potentially more leads per se, but the art of how to do lead management, how to do lead nurturing, and make sure that you land with a proper, you know, signed off handshake, MQLs to SQLs, and then can bring them into orders. Yeah, that's something a tool will not do for you. You also need to build up your the competencies of and the amount of people in the organization, right? And it's not, in many cases, not even about the people willingness or knowledge levels or whatever, but it's also the sheer attention that it hasn't gotten in the past, right? So if you're running around as a marketeer trying to prepare for a trade show, you know, doing all the marketing collateral and the content, and then also need to kind of nurture that funnel of leads, yeah, that's more than a one-person job. And I think that realization in our company certainly has been there, and now the biggest investment is kind of scaling up and making sure that you can also do these things at global scale.
Yep. I think you brought up a really important point that I'm going to drill in on for a second, and it's going to get a little tactical, but I know folks will care about this. You know, lots of suppliers are redoing their websites or considering a redesign, and what we hear is that they want to, you know, better tell their brand story and all of that. But I think they're now also thinking through customer experience and how do we want to take a customer through that online journey on our own website. The larger suppliers that we speak to already generate a lot of leads. A lot of the smaller, medium-sized suppliers, not as much. And like they're, you know, when they're going into the customer experience conversations, they're all about like, how do we open the top of the funnel and generate more leads? Larger suppliers, like, look, everyone, the people know who Eastman is. They're going to come to us anyway. And so, you know, given where both you guys work, I would assume lead generation is probably not the biggest pain point. It's that next step of the funnel. It's okay, now we've generated leads, whether it came from this source, this online source, whatever. Now what? Like they just sort of leave the organization and nobody ever knows what happens to them all. And so is that something that you guys are spending a lot of time thinking through?
Yeah, and I think Ali, that's exactly, I think, the biggest attention point for us as well. It's like you said, it's not about in general generating more unqualified leads by people saying, oh, let me ask the question to Mitsubishi, they might have an answer. It is kind of making sure that as a company, globally, widely, we understand our customers' buying decision journeys and truly understanding, not just the interaction moment when they have a request, but really understanding what are the challenges, what are the problems, what are the different steps they go through, and then being able to help them. And you raise an interesting point. A global website, as an example, is one of these topics. Typically, you know, we have the urge to load a global website with as much as technical data and information as possible. Well, the question might be, are we really serving kind of the personas that we're targeting in the journey? Are they visiting our website for that, yes or no? Or are they actually potentially, if they're looking for a very specific solution, leveraging marketplaces like Knowde or you know, searching somewhere else? So the purpose of each and every touch point can only be properly determined if you understand the full customer experience journey and then be very specific. What is the purpose of this touch point? What do we want to do? Is it creating interest? Is it driving awareness? Is it conversion related? And typically in the past, yeah, we thought of kind of a website of doing everything, you know, from creating brand value all the way up to kind of getting the order in place. And I think that's a big change. That still requires time and dedicated effort to understand, okay, how can we optimally serve our customers by understanding, you know, how can we bring information at the right touch point for the right audience? And in many cases also means it's not ours, you know, it's owned, but also non-owned touch point.
I think to that point, you know, your website or your digital platforms or digital in general are tools that go in a toolkit. The toolkit also includes analog items and sales team members following up and in-person presentations and, you know, going to trade shows. You know, there's a wide variety of things that you're going to do to nurture a lead, grow a relationship. And it's really important that you kind of do the trial and error across all the different tools to make sure that, you know, people are getting what they need. And not every customer who comes in, even if it's two different customers asking about the same product, they might not be looking for the same thing. And so, you know, they might be looking for a different kind of white glove experience from the sales team, or somebody else might be looking for, where can I find the least expensive product? Or somebody else might be looking for something different. And so even if they're looking for the same exact product or chemical or ingredient, you know, everybody's needs are slightly different. And so making sure that that portion, you know, once you get the inquiry, the lead comes in and they're like, hey, I'm interested. Okay, what happens next is a big part of it. How do you continue that experience? How do you continue that, you know, brand building, that relationship building with that person who comes in, who's looking for something? You know, I would say in consumer marketing and consumer experiences have impacted that portion of, you know, growing relationships with customers vastly. I mean, the expectation is I submitted a request for information. I sure hope somebody's going to get back to me in 24 hours. Maybe if it's a Friday, I'll give them the weekend. But, you know, I think that's a big part of it too, is it's not necessarily about following up to say, hey, we got your message. Like, let's follow up and say, hey, let's have a conversation. You have to follow up in the right way also. And so that's something, you know, we're spending a lot of time thinking about and figuring out, you know, how do we balance what somebody's looking for? All leads that come in are also, or all requests that come in are not necessarily all leads either. And that's something else that we're looking at as well. You know, if somebody is asking for, you know, product specific information, or they're looking for a safety data sheet or whatever it might be, you know, those things are available on the website. Go ahead and get it. You need help finding something, we're here to help you. But that's a little bit different than somebody who's maybe looking to make a product purchase or build a relationship. So, you know, lead generation is a complicated effort in that sort of way. You know, you have to really understand what is the person looking for and how do I funnel their request to the right person who can do the right kind of follow-up. You know, if it's wayfinding and pointing them to something, that's a little simpler than if it's, you know, hey, I'd like to come in and have a conversation with somebody. So making sure that we've got the tools in our toolkit to be able to follow up in the right ways is really important.
Yep. I think one misconception is that when you say that we're building digital capabilities, it means that you're taking the human out of it. And it's not true. You got to bring the human into the digital experience. It's just all about being hyper responsive while they're there.
Yes. And I mean, I think to that point, like every website I go on where I'm getting answered by a chat bot, when I put chat in, I'm like, nope, never mind, I'm done here. So I think that's another example of, you know, you need a person on the other end who's going to answer the phone or respond to your email or, you know, chat with you and answer your questions specifically in real time. Most people are not looking for a chatbot canned response that, you know, kicks them something that usually isn't relevant to what they're looking for. So you need the humans on the other side, and you need the humans to value digital as a tool in their toolkit.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. You guys are both part of like some pretty major transformations happening within your company. again, kind of tactical, but I know people really care about this stuff, which is like, what's your major focus right now when it comes to customer digital initiatives? Like, what do you want to build? What do you want to build over the next year?
Roy, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think while we have a wide range of different things we will be focusing on investing in and building up, Ali, if to pick one thing, I would say true customer experience journey understanding. Because again, we can invest and build fantastic tools and teams and whatever we want to build, but if we're focusing on kind of the wrong moment or an isolated moment in that journey, we can potentially not serve our customers at all because it might not be what they're looking for. So I think personally, I see them, if we can get to a point, and we've actually, with a great team that we have internally, already started explaining what customer experience is about, what's behind it, what is a journey, why is it relevant. I think we've seen kind of already the impact that can have. And if I think 1 year ahead and can make one wish, I think, well, it's touching the heart and souls of people in our team, truly understanding what customer experience and customer experience journeys are and how to treat different moments along that journey, potentially in different ways, like Jordan said, with different elements in the toolbox. That's going to be the biggest win and the number one priority, I would say.
We're really focused, at least in my role, I'm going to be really focused over the next year on many things. I have many wishes, as Roy had mentioned, but if I got to narrow it down to one wish, I think for me, it's more about having our brand story represented better in the digital space so that people can understand who we are, what we stand for, how do we, bring maybe something different to the table, why might somebody want to partner with us, and helping to tell that story. So we're really focused on kind of, it's a part of the user experience for sure. It's a part of the brand building and the brand storytelling also. And it's certainly a part of, how do people react and interact, I should say, really with the folks who work at Eastman on the day-to-day. So if you become a lead and you've put in a request, who's the human who's picking up the phone and what do they have to say? And how do you want to experience working with us or speaking to us or even getting questions answered by us? So, I think it's for us going to be a little bit about building our brand in that space. And, we started this year with some revamping of our website, and, we're doing that in a little bit of an agile fashion. We've got parts done. We were really encouraged by looking through our data and analytics and seeing what's working and what's not. And so continuing that portion of it as well and making sure that we're, including what's working, figuring out how to do more of that, and, listening to the customers and the voice of customer is a part of that as well. So, that's going to be a really big focus for us. It's really that brand experience in the digital space, and it's got a couple different arms and legs that grow out of it, but certainly looking to continue that experience for people.
Look, from someone that's been in this industry for a while, it's so refreshing to hear these sort of comments. I mean, it feels like the industry is like finally like taking this, in a real way and saying, okay, like let's map out the customer journey. Let's understand the pain points. Let's look at the data. Let's figure out how we're going to be more responsive and like really build that customer experience in the future. I mean, at Knowde, we're constantly, looking at our own data, talking to suppliers, talking to customers, and trying to wrap our heads around like, what does this all mean? And so I think this is a good transition to, where is Knowde going next? And so let me set the stage for some of our latest features. So our objective at Knowde is to listen to what the market's saying and build a platform that enables customers to go through their entire buying journey in the most seamless, seamless way possible, from discovery all the way through to the transaction. And historically, we've only made that experience possible by opening a storefront in the marketplace. But from our perspective, it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, we can certainly enable the same features on a supplier's own website. We want to be able to modernize all these websites as fast as possible because we think that the amount of action that's happening on these websites justifies the tooling as fast as possible. And so on that note, I think people would be quite surprised to know how many customers are going to their websites today, like are going to the websites today, browsing for information, requesting stuff, expecting answers quickly. And, we want to be able to accelerate that experience. And so today we're going to use Mitsubishi Chemical for demonstration purposes only. Describe, what I mean when I say to enable those same features that we've built in the marketplace on your own website. And so Jeff, over to you. Jeff's our Chief Product Officer, and he leads all things thinking of the future of Knowde. And so he'll give you guys a preview of, where we're going next.
Yeah, thanks, Ali. Appreciate that. So I'm going to reinforce some of the things that Ali just said. We've had conversations. We've worked with literally thousands of suppliers and customers over the last several years in order to build the Knowde marketplace. And we've built tools that enable product discovery. We've built tools that enable sales enablement and the ability to take a customer through a buying journey that sometimes can last days, sometimes weeks, months, and even years. And we've built a transactional system that is as flexible as the chemical industry needs it to be, where you can sell the same product under different conditions to different groups of customers. And one of the things that we get frequently from talking to suppliers is the question, can't I get this for my own web presence? There's a lot of recognition in the world, especially, one of the things Jordan said about consumerizing, the B2B experience. There's a lot of recognition in the world that your products can live in multiple places online and become discoverable. You see this in the CPG space, and I think you're going to start seeing it more and more in the B2B space. So what we're announcing today is a brand new product at Knowde. We call it Knowde White Label. And in essence, what we're able to do is take all the power of Knowde, all the tools that we've built for discovery, engagement, and transactions, and offer them to suppliers to power their own website. For us, discovery is about search, browse, finding the products that a customer needs in the way that they need them. We created a unified taxonomy that governs this entire product set. We did that with a rich knowledge team within our organization that looked at creating something that made sense in all the various submarkets within the industry. We've built a tremendous platform for customer engagement where you can find the customer where they are. You can connect with them at their leisure. If they want real-time communication, we support that. If they want asynchronous communication, we support that. If they want documentation, and I'll show you all of these features today. And then transactions, super flexible system that works the way the chemical industry works. One of the things that we hear a lot when we ask suppliers questions about how they do business, the answer is always prefaced with, it depends. It depends on the situation. It depends on the region. It depends on the customer group. It depends on a lot of different factors. And what we've done is we've responded to that by creating a super flexible e-commerce platform that allows you to model all of those different scenarios. So again, thanks to Mitsubishi Chemical Group for allowing us to demo this whole concept on their brand. As Ali said, and I'll certainly reinforce, the data that you're going to see on the screen is directionally correct. It's for illustrative purposes only. I'm going to show you the checkout experience and some of the pricing. All of that is made up. We never share supplier pricing with anyone. So just take what you see as a conceptual presentation of these features. So imagine that Mitsubishi Chemical Group had engaged Knowde to grab our white label product and work with our team in order to spin up a purpose-built product discovery system. And what they did is they gave us all of their product data. They didn't have to do any of the heavy lifting. We have an entire knowledge team service that takes that product data, organizes it, applies our taxonomy, ingests it into the system so that it's ready. Very, very low touch on the supplier side. And so you could go to Mitsubishi Chemical Group's website in the Americas. You could click on the careers link and go to a purpose-built career and HR site. You might go to a news link or an investor link and go to a purpose-built site. And so what we're imagining is that you click on the products tab and you go to this purpose-built site for product discovery and engagement. And what you see here, right off the bat, is all the products, the ability to browse them by market. You can browse the products by technology. Those are the two cornerstone nodes of our taxonomy. You'll see featured products, and you'll get merchandising tools to feature products based on different conditions and target them to different user groups. You'll see frequently accessed documents, and if you support them, you'll see formulations, all laid out here in a very simple, easy to use platform. And perhaps a customer, and what we're gonna sort of imagine a customer from Panasonic Industry, who's searching for a product for one of their applications. And they might start here at the product tab. And here they can see all the major categories of the products that are being sold. They can look at the individual products themselves. They could also go up to the Documents tab. And so let's say they want to go to the Documents tab and they just want to find a TDS. Now, the system can gate these documents, require a form or require an authenticated account to access them. But in this case, we're just imagining that they're publicly available. They can click on the document, and instead of downloading it, it's opened right in front of them instantly so that they can consume the information from this document, get everything that they need. All right. So let's continue the story. We've got Barry Beyer. He's our sample customer, and he's with Panasonic Industry. And he's looking for a low viscosity epoxy resin. And so he goes to the search and he types that in. And immediately he's presented with search results page with all of the categories that match that text string. He can focus on case ingredients because that's exactly the space that he's looking for an adhesive. He might go to the applications tab and choose adhesive and sealants. He might then say, well, this is still too many products. Let me filter it down a little bit more. And what he's able to see is all of the filters that he is familiar with within this space, all laid out. If he wants to look at various technical properties, he can look at compatible substrates and surfaces. If he wants to focus on a physical form, he can click that. If he wants to search on a performance property, and maybe he wants to get a range for application temperature between a min and a max temperature, he's able to do that. Perhaps he wants a physical property. He's able to choose those. But for the purpose of the demo, we're going to imagine that what Barry wants is something that is water resistant. And so he applies the water resistant filter. And now he has a smaller subset of products to choose from. And he can begin his browsing and consideration process. And he chooses the first item on the screen, JER 1750. And here, laid out in front of him, is all the data that he needs to make an initial evaluative decision. Now what we do is we unpack the TDS for Mitsubishi. We put all of the data right at Barry's fingertips. But no matter how well we do this job, there are always questions that customers have that can't be predicted or answered. And so right here at the bottom of the screen is the communication system within the Knowde White Label platform. And here, because Mitsubishi has decided that they don't want to talk to unknown customers, they want to make sure that their customers are identified. They require a business email address. That email is then sent a link, which they have to click on and enter a code to confirm their identity. They have to then create an account, password, They fill out a very simple form, tell Mitsubishi about themselves, you know, the Panasonic R&D senior formulator in electric and electronics. And now Barry is able to start the conversation. And so I'm going to zoom in here on this conversation. So, you know, he's considering this product. He wants to know what class of hardener, you know, would recommend. And as soon as he types that message, he sees that there's a sales manager available for him to chat with. So Emma joins the conversation. And Emma is a knowledgeable salesperson. She also has a knowledge base that she can source from. And so she's able to answer the question. In addition to answering the question, she's able to recommend other products and other applications for Barry to think about and give him a little bit more technical insight so that Barry has the information that he wants. She's even able to send Barry a quick brochure right through the chat application so that Barry has everything he needs. And so this is not a chat bot. What this is a human being sitting on a console managing these conversations. And so let me show you what that looks like. This is what Emma, the sales manager, sees. And she's here in her, what we call this, the live conversations platform. She can see all of her customers here on the left. When she clicks on a given customer, she can see the conversation. She can see information about the customer, all the pertinent information. And this is all provided through a service that Knowde gives Mitsubishi for their white label platform so that they're not necessarily filling out all this data. Part of the data comes from Barry filling out forms, and part of the data comes from various data sources that we have access to. Emma's able to get information about past performance with Barry. Maybe she wants more detail about who Barry is. She wants to know what his lead score is and kind of where he is in his buying journey. She can actually look at his entire buying journey and all the interactions that he's had with Mitsubishi's website over time. And if she wants to, she can also click on the Accounts tab and get all that information in the context of Panasonic. So she knows what Panasonic is. She understands all the other leads that they're talking to at Panasonic, which gives a 360-degree view of this customer. Suddenly, this customer has a little bit more context. Within this platform, she's also able to do some basic things. She can send a document from her computer. She can send a document from the system that's already built into the system as part of the document library. She can send a product link. She can bring in an expert. So imagine that maybe Emma can't answer every single question, and she notices that, oh, the product manager for this line is available online. She can bring that product manager in for a quick chat for a couple of minutes, and then that product manager can get on with the rest of their day. She can schedule a meeting with Barry and take the conversation offline. She has saved responses that she can choose from so that she doesn't have to type the same answer over and over again. And if she has the opportunity and Barry is willing, she can take Barry into a video call, just like we're doing right now, where she can draw on the screen and share documents and answer Barry's questions in real time. So, you know, a lot of power within the Live Conversations platform. That is part of the engagement platform of the tools, you know, that I mentioned earlier. So let's imagine that Barry has gotten a lot of information that he needs. And so he wants to order a sample of this product. Very simple. He goes back to the product page. He clicks on the sample button. The sample button automatically pre-populates with his most recently used choices. It allows him to tell Mitsubishi more information about him. It auto-populates, you know, his address and phone number, et cetera. And in a couple of clicks, he can send a sample into the system. And this is Emma's email client. She's looking at her email and she gets an email about that sample that just came in. She's able to manage that request and log into the back end of the Knowde White Label platform. She's able to mark that as in progress. If she doesn't handle samples, then these samples are automatically routed to the people at Mitsubishi that do handle samples. And Barry is also given notification. He gets an email in his inbox about the sample, right? So, you know, as we know in this world, Nobody goes and orders the sample, gets it instantly, instantly performs tests, takes time. So let's imagine that time has elapsed and Barry has done some evaluations in his lab and he's come back and said, I really like this product, I want to purchase it. Barry can return to the product page. And here, what you'll see is this box on the right. We call this the power box. And Mitsubishi has a tremendous amount of flexibility with what shows up here. In this case that I'm showing you right now, Barry is offered something called an instant quote, where he can answer a couple of quick questions and get a price immediately. But you'll notice that the MOQ is not visible. The lead time's not visible. The Incoterms are not visible. But what would happen on this page if the person that was looking at it hadn't registered for an account or had registered for an account in a region that Mitsubishi didn't service? Well, then the power box would change for that case and would show that this product is unavailable to that user. And it would encourage the user to contact Mitsubishi directly to look for other alternative options. Or maybe if it's a first-time customer, Mitsubishi has decided that they want to offer a standard quote, a quote that requires human intervention, that can take 24 hours to a week to complete. And the user can begin that here. Or let's imagine that the customer already has a quote and they visit this page. Well, then the power box changes and shows them the quote that they have and allows them to add a quantity and check out at their leisure. Or let's imagine that the product is configured for an instant quote, but the lead time they want to make available. Maybe there's some powerful reason why they want the market to know that they have 14-day lead times and that they make this available to users of a particular group. Maybe they even want to do that with MOQ. They want to make that change as well. So there's a tremendous amount of flexibility here. And this is all powered by a product that we call the Terms of Sale Builder. Here in the Terms of Sale Builder, you can create a business rule for selling your products. As an example, maybe this is instant quotes for electronic customers. You can target all your customers, first-time customers. You can target only Mitsubishi chemical customers or verified customers. You can select from customer groups. You can choose different custom conditions in order to segment your customers. In addition to that, you can apply this rule to multiple products. Maybe it's applied to all Mitsubishi products, or maybe it's actually only applied to products that are in Division 2. So now that you've got your target customers, you know who you're targeting this rule to, and you've targeted this and associated this rule with different products, now you have to set up your selling policy. And the white label platform has a bunch of built-in selling policies already ready for you. And you've got negotiated by quote, which is the standard quote. You could have list pricing if you wanted. You could have promotional pricing. What we're going to recommend in this is an instant quote. And in the instant quote, it's very simple to set up. You simply ask the customer certain questions. Which markets does this quote apply to? What is the min and max volume, annual volume that they need to get this approved instantly? What markets does this apply to? So in this case, we're just modeling this on France. And then what happens when you don't approve them? Do you show a custom error message? And so you can configure all of that. There's a ton of capability here. I'm not going to go into every single one of them. I'm just going to show you a few of them. You've got different pricing models that you can choose from. You've got different MOQ models. Maybe it's not about packages. Maybe it's about cash value. You've got different ship from locations that you can limit this rule to. You can specify different lead times for this rule. It all shows up here that allows you to configure what is hidden and shown in the power box. You go through the process and you've got questions that you can answer around the types of product support you have, the type of payment terms you offer. It's really, really powerful. And ultimately, what Mitsubishi can do is they can publish this rule. And now that they've published the rule, Barry can get his instant quote. And all he does is fill out a form. He says, okay, this is the annual volume. and he says the country that he's in, this all fits with the rule that we just created. And so Barry is given some quotes. He can choose those quotes, accept that pricing. Now his instant quote is ready. He can increase the quantity, and then he can add that product to cart. Now, of course, I think we all know that it's unlikely that the formulator is going to make a purchase, for a company as big as Panasonic. But for the purposes of this demo, we're just showing how streamlined this can be. In practice, obviously, what happens is this goes into procurement, and procurement goes through a process, and ultimately a PO is cut and a purchase is made. And the checkout process is pretty straightforward. You've got all the right questions answered. What is the delivery type? What are the Incoterms that are supported? You can see the pickup location, the delivery location. You can request rush if you need to have the product faster than the lead time allows. You're able to then choose from a variety of different payment options. You can pay by invoice. You might have a credit balance, and that's applied to the checkout as well. Perhaps you can add your purchase order number right to this. And you get, of course, a confirmation screen that allows you to get oriented on exactly the purchase that you made. And what happens in the back end is that an email is then sent to Mitsubishi's department that handles order entry. And they're able to review that order. They log back into their white label platform. They're able to review the order. They can make changes to the order. They notice that the order's already been synchronized with SAP. So it's the central console for all of that. And in this back-end system, they can get a dashboard that shows them all their recent leads. It shows them their overall company response time. They can see their sales pipeline. They can manage all the sample requests from all their customers in one place. And in addition to that, they get a wide range of various analytics views. So they're, an executive summary, they get marketing performance, they get channels and visits so they can see where their traffic is coming from. There's engagement statistics, et cetera. It's a very rich platform. And obviously what I'm doing today is giving you a hyper fast overview of it. The best option for you, if you want to dig deeper and double click on any of these areas, is to talk to a salesperson at Knowde, and that person can give you a full demonstration of this platform. All right, so this is a massive product announcement from Knowde. We really are doing something completely different. We're taking the power of the technology that we've built to date, and we're making it available to suppliers to run on their own websites so that they can get the power of product discovery, they can get the power of customer engagement tools and sales tools, and they can get the power of super flexible transactions in order to go to market in a completely different way. All right, Ali, I will hand it back over to you.
Cool. Thanks, Jeff. That was a lot. I mean, we know it was a lot.
Yep.
We've certainly built a lot of software, and we've got a massive roadmap ahead of us. A bunch of questions came through. I'm going to answer a handful of them very quickly, just because they're getting repeated over and over again. One common theme is, can Knowde now build my entire website? The short answer is no. You still build and maintain your own website. You own the employee experience, you own the investor experience, and all those sort of things. But now we've created the easy button for the customer experience. Lots of questions came through around how easy is this to implement? How much work is it on my side? It's super easy. We do a lot of the heavy lifting on our side. The implementation typically takes a couple days, and upgrades and maintenance is all done automatically. There's a set of questions that came through that actually I want to kind of pose over to Roy and Jordan. They kind of fall under one theme, which is the whole build versus buy conversation. Take it from us, building the software is not easy. There's a lot that you have to think through, and it costs a lot of money to build this sort of thing. But when you buy, you also got to be careful because there's a lot of software out there, and a lot of it isn't necessarily built for the needs of the space. And so it's a very tricky sort of topic. I'm sure this conversation comes up a lot within Eastman and Mitsubishi Chemical in terms of like, you know, is this something we should be buying? Is this something we should be building? Like, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but you know, is there a framework that you guys use to think through that?
We dig deep into the requirements first. What are we looking to create? And we make sure that we understand all the requirements across anybody who's going to be using whatever it is that we're building. So if it's, you know, sales team members, marketers, you know, whoever it might be. And then from there, we take a really deep look at, you know, what are our choices? And we usually evaluate, you know, the build versus buy question. We look at, you know, what are the things that are out there? What are the things we could make? And then kind of make a decision from there. So I think build versus buy just generally, I mean, in my experience in digital in the last 10 plus years is it's always a question. And, you know, the process of evaluating requirements and isn't new. Eastman's not the only one who does it. You know, I think it's something that I've seen as best practice throughout my career. It's really about figuring out what is it that you need to make, and then seeing what are the pros and cons of each. Sometimes it's better to build, sometimes it's better to buy, and it really just depends on what the specific things you're looking to solve are.
Yep. Roy, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I've been let's say involved in and responsible for several e-commerce big programs in my past. I think what also matters, it depends a little bit of the maturity state that you're in also as a company, and same as for your customers. So I would say, you know, in a relatively immature or changing environment of experience around e-commerce and using digital and online buying, I wouldn't necessarily, let's say, promote a lot to say, okay, let's go out and spend a lot of money on building an e-commerce engine and a front end kind of for our company. I think the typical approach we take a lot in our company is start from benchmark, start from best practice, start from what is available, make sure, and again, I'll come back to my initial point, that we scale up our competencies and capabilities in the organization. And once we meet kind of the threshold of what these best practices can offer, then let's talk about, you know, building on top of that to build additional value. Now, without saying that kind of the white label has everything in there, you know, that might be required as of day one. I think in general, I do see a lot of value in the practice of starting with these, because again, for a company, for example, like ours, it means that you can focus on upskilling and enhancing kind of your organization with the insights, with the capabilities, instead of spending 3 years, you know, building all of that before you can actually start using it. So in general, I think there's certainly a purpose, but it depends on the maturity of the organization.
It also depends on maintaining it long term too. That's another piece of it. Sometimes, you know, I've seen in working with clients in the past, if you build something, it's not just set and forget. You've got to put in, you know, the blood, sweat, and tears sometimes towards maintaining it. And whether you're building or you're buying, there's still a maintenance component to it. You have to, you know, put up whatever it is that you're making, and then be sure that you have the people, the skills to maintain it long term. So that's another thing to just make sure you're considering as you're evaluating build versus buy or requirements, or really any sort of entry into the digital space is, you know, how am I going to maintain this, and who's going to be responsible for it long term?
Yep, totally. We're running up against time. There are 2 more questions that I'm going to try to get through quickly. One is around like integrations. Yes, we handle all integrations with Salesforce, SAP, Microsoft, and all that. The other one is a question around, you know, is the Knowde marketplace still core to what we're doing? And the answer is yes, absolutely. All the features in the white label version is still available in the storefront. All features are available in both. You decide where you want to implement. If you believe the right answer for your organization is marketplace, amazing. You don't want to mess with your website, go to the marketplace. If you think that all customers are going to always come to your own website and they don't care for a marketplace for whatever reason, which we obviously don't agree with, then only put it on your own website. Customers go everywhere. They go to Google, they go to marketplaces, they go to websites, they go wherever they find information. And we just want to make it easy to deploy tech wherever you believe your customers are. Okay, we're right at time. Jordan, Roy, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate all of the insights. We're going to cut this up a little bit and distribute a lot of this content. This was an amazing session. Couldn't have done it without you. Have a good one, everyone.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good one.